The United States is going nose to nose with Iran's Islamic regime. The war of words is getting tougher.
The politics of abortion, what's happening right now, and how it will affect the upcoming presidential race. I'm Emily Druby, and that story is ahead.
Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio and the Knights of Columbus offering special prayers for people being brutalized because they believe in God. Derrell Bouknight is graduating from St. John's University with honors, and he's achieved an even greater success in life. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Michelle Powers. Tensions are rising between the U.S. and Iran. The country's nuclear ambitions are once again on the forefront. President Trump is warning the Islamic regime against fighting the United States, but that's not stopping Tehran from taking potshots at the White House. Karen Kaifa has the story.
Iran's foreign minister hitting back at President Trump, tweeting Monday, "Economic terrorism and genocidal taunts won't end Iran. Never threaten an Iranian. Try respect. It works." This in response to the president re-upping his threat to Iran after dialing things down late last week. His words Sunday, "If Iran wants to fight, that will be the official end of Iran." Some likening the recent re-escalation to the president's fire and fury Twitter tactics aimed at North Korea 2 years ago. It's led to many questions on Capitol Hill about where this is headed and why. Democrats urging the Trump administration to use caution.
We are already enmeshed in the conflict in Syria. I think it is critical that we play our hand here thoroughly, cautiously, carefully, and recognizing that we face an enormous challenge from China and a real and sustained challenge from Russia. If we were to get drawn into a war with Iran, the consequences for our global position would be, I think, tragic.
Some Republicans downplaying the idea that the Trump White House wants a military conflict, but supporting their recent moves like repositioning military assets in the Middle East.
If you see a threat, you don't just brush it aside and say, well, most likely nothing will happen. You take it seriously and act appropriately.
Classified briefings on Iran for all senators and all House members are scheduled for Tuesday. In Washington, Karen Kaifa, Currents News.
From the nuclear debate to the abortion battle fight right here in the U.S. As the election season ramps up, President Trump is clashing with Democrats who want his job. Caught in the middle are the precious infants in the womb. Currents News' Emily Druby reports the latest on the politics of abortion.
I will sign the bill as it presented to me.
Missouri is the most recent state to pass pro-life legislation. A recently passed measure would ban abortion after 8 weeks of pregnancy. The governor says he will sign the bill into law.
Because it's a piece of legislation that the legislators voted on. I believe in the pro-life side of the issue.
Missouri joining Georgia, Alabama, and several other states working to strengthen protections for the unborn. On the other side, states like New York and Virginia have taken extreme steps to virtually eradicate any restrictions on the deadly procedure, even until the moment of birth. Former New York State Senator Marty Golden predicts the clashes between the states will have an effect on the upcoming 2020 presidential race.
It will be one of the many focal points that's driving some of the rhetoric that we see going on and some of the legislation that's being passed in some of these states. It is truly appalling.
Michael Long, the retired chairman of New York State's Conservative Party, thinks the harsh anti-life push in New York has spurred on the pro-life movement.
And that, I think, energizes and drives out those pro-life voters and also pro-choice voters that really believe the country has now gone too far.
President Trump and Vice President Pence are firmly on the side of life, with Pence speaking out in Florida today.
With Roe versus Wade, it will be an issue that has to come before the Supreme Court. But what the American people can be confident of is this president, his vice president, this administration will continue to stand for the sanctity of life.
Many of Trump's 2020 Democratic challengers back abortion.
It's a very scary time for America. If you have a nation and a whole political party promoting abortion and have no respect for life, you really don't have a future for a country.
Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Cory Booker have said they'll write Roe v. Wade into permanent law. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is campaigning on a pro-abortion platform, and former Vice President Joe Biden has spoken out in favor of the deadly procedure despite his Catholic upbringing. Emily Druby, Currents News.
Pope Francis is taking on the pro-life fight by encouraging healthcare professionals to defend and promote the sanctity of life. During a meeting at the Vatican on Friday, the Holy Father highlighted the practice of conscientious objection, where medical professionals should object to any unethical practices.
La scelta dell'obiezione, tuttavia, quando necessaria, va compiuta con rispetto, perché non diventi motivo di disprezzo o di orgoglio ciò che deve essere fatto con umiltà.
The Pope stressed that any medical procedure performed on a human must be first evaluated carefully to determine if it respects life and human dignity, lamenting that the current health system prioritizes efficiency and cost reduction over proper treatment. An ex-official of the Holy See has been cleared of sexual harassment allegations by the Vatican court. Father Herman Geisler was accused in 2014 of soliciting sex from a woman while hearing her confession. A Vatican tribunal investigated the case and found him not guilty after a trial that ended Friday. The Holy See has not said if the priest would return to his previous post. Archbishop Charles Scicluna is going to Poland to help the church boost its protections of children and young people from sexual abuse. The trip next month comes amid an outcry in the country over a documentary on clerical abuse. The Archbishop is the Pope's top prosecutor of sexual wrongdoing by clergy. Irish voters are going to the polls this week, and they could change the country's constitution on divorce. Right now, couples must live apart for years before getting a divorce. Since that is in the Constitution, changes must be approved in a public vote. The Church in Ireland is warning Catholics the referendum doesn't support marriage, but liberalizes divorce. Christians across the world are being killed for their faith every day. 2019 is on track to be the bloodiest year ever for persecuted believers. To combat the cruelty, Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio and the Knights of Columbus offered special prayers for those who are being brutalized for their belief in God. Currents News' Tim Hoffman reports.
A special hour of prayer simultaneously held throughout the state of New York, dedicated to the plight of persecuted Christians. Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio leading members of the Knights of Columbus before the Blessed Sacrament and the icon of Our Lady Help of Persecuted Christians.
It's terrible that people would use violence against people of faith, and especially when they're praying. Praying for an end to violence is something that we know we can do. The Lord listens to our prayers. We have to ask.
The International Catholic Organization is at the forefront of helping Christians facing violence because of their faith, and 2019 is projected to be Christianity's bloodiest year yet. Kenneth Latham leads New York's 86,000 Knights and says they stand in solidarity with worshipers overseas.
They need money. They don't have houses. They don't have shelter. And this is what the Knights of Columbus is helping provide to the persecuted Christians.
Knights of Columbus chaplain Father Michael Gelfand says the persecution is also felt here at home.
Our Christian values are being attacked by certain laws and politicians, and there's just this sense of the church also being under attack.
Also remembered on this night, the latest attacks against Christians. 10 worshipers killed in just 2 days in Burkina Faso, West Africa. Before that, over 250 killed in Sri Lanka during Easter Sunday bombings. Following the prayer service at the St. James Cathedral Basilica in downtown Brooklyn, the recognition of a newly formed council, named in memory of late Brooklyn Bishop Thomas Daly. The group becomes the 17,000th official Knights of Columbus Council in the world.
He just loved the Knights of Columbus. I had so many great conversations with him, and just his love of the order just came from him naturally.
He was so proud to be a knight. His father had worked for the Knights of Columbus, and he was a very faithful knight, and this was something really to his memory.
This new council joining the fight for an end to violence against persecuted Christians. In downtown Brooklyn, Tim Hoffman, Currents News.
Police in Chicago are on the hunt for a man accused of trying to set fire to a synagogue and the act was caught on camera. Authorities say the man threw 3 bottles full of accelerant at the place of worship, leaving behind a large oil spill and broken glass all over the cement. More surveillance video is being examined by both the FBI and Chicago police as the Jewish community in the area remains on high alert. A teenage boy died in government custody this morning. He's the 5th underage migrant to die in similar circumstances since December. The death comes as border agents are overwhelmed by the flood of people coming to the U.S. Omar Jimenez reports.
A 5th child dead while in United States custody at the southern border after traveling from Guatemala and being apprehended by U.S. authorities. He was only 16 years old. His cause of death unknown. In a statement, Customs and Border Protection saying the men and women of U.S. Customs and Border Protection are saddened by the tragic loss of this young man, and our condolences are with his family. CBP is committed to the health, safety, and humane treatment of those in our custody. But border authorities have described the situation at the border as not sustainable. And these photos show migrants, many of them children, sleeping on the ground on rocks and dirt.
We are trying to deal with this crisis as close to the southwest border as we possibly can. That being said, the numbers are very large. We've apprehended over 540,000 people already.
That's higher than any year over the course of the past decade, surpassing full year totals in just a matter of months. And so far, no long-term solutions have emerged out of Washington.
We have to address both the push factors from the sending countries, what's going on in those countries that's leading these families to want to leave and make that dangerous journey here, as well as some of the pull factors.
As for the Guatemalan boy, an investigation is underway into how exactly he died, only about a week after being apprehended. Omar Jimenez, Currents News.
American Cardinal Raymond Burke is saying it would be, quote, responsible to resist large-scale Muslim immigration into traditionally Christian nations. The conservative prelate made the comment at a pro-family conference in Rome. He said Islam believes itself destined to rule the world, and to limit the number of Muslim migrants would be prudent. A very important story for the Catholic Church in America will take place tomorrow. Wilton Gregory will be installed as the new Archbishop of Washington, D.C. Net TV will televise live coverage of the ceremony beginning at 1:30 p.m. Currents News' Tim Harfman and the national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, will be in Washington for team coverage of the Gregory installation as the new leader of Catholics in the Capitol. There's a lot more news headed your way on this edition of Currents News. Derrell Bouknight has graduated from St. John's University with honors. We'll tell you what else he accomplished that's even more important. We're on hand for a celebration that has been decades in the making. You'll hear from those being honored. And why Pope Francis wanted the crowd to applaud for a woman from Spain. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Turning to an important time for many young people, graduation season is now taking place in the Brooklyn Diocese. Derrell Bouknight earned the Dean's Award at St. John's University, but he has achieved an even greater accomplishment in his life. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports.
Decked out in their caps and gowns, nearly 2,300 graduates walked across the stage at St. John's on Sunday, making up the largest graduating class in 3 decades.
Derrell Bouknight, summa cum laude.
Derrell Bouknight has had an outstanding college career at the university. The journalism major received his diploma in 3.5 years, while posting a 3.84 grade point average. He was deeply involved in many journalism-related activities at the school and earned the Dean's Award. Besides his success in the classroom, he achieved an even greater success in life.
I wasn't Catholic, but I was so invested and so interested in learning about the faith.
He was raised in Washington, D.C. and grew up a Baptist. When he arrived at St. John's, Derrell experienced a transformation.
To be honest, I didn't know if it was possible to change your religion or become Catholic or convert from one religion to another.
He was attending a campus mass when he learned about the Catholic Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults, RCIA. After 8 months of preparation, Derrell was confirmed a Catholic, receiving the gifts of the Holy Spirit through sacred chrism oil.
It was right over my right shoulder where Bishop Cisneros took the oil and anointed me and put it on my forehead. And without St. John's and the RCIA program here, I wouldn't have been able to really fulfill one of my dreams, which was to learn about the faith and actually live it out.
He credits his girlfriend Maggie Moore, who also graduated on Sunday, for supporting his decision. Maggie was Derrell's sponsor at his confirmation.
I said, you know, it's your choice, obviously. I will support you and be here for you if you choose to, and if not, you know, we can still remain friends, and I will not think of you any differently. But he decided to do it.
Staying true to the faith is a challenge for some of their peers. According to a study by CARA, the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, fewer than 2/3 of millennials raised as Catholics remain so as adults. Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio praised St. John's for making faith a crucial part of the school's curriculum.
It is giving the Catholic values in all of its courses with its teachers and its theology. So it's a very positive atmosphere that supports the faith.
The bishop delivered the invocation at the commencement. As for Derrell and Maggie, he's starting his journalism career as a CBS News associate with an eye on eventually becoming a sports broadcaster. She's hoping to teach history and will go for her master's degree at NYU. Derrell says their Catholic faith is the driving force in their lives.
I believe everybody has some sort of inner calling or inner spirituality.
In Jamaica, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Religious brothers and sisters celebrated their decades of service to the people of the Brooklyn Diocese this weekend. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio was the main celebrant at a mass for nuns and brothers who reached milestone anniversaries at the Immaculate Conception Center in Douglaston, Queens. Currents News asked the bishop and some of the jubilarians about the special occasion.
25, 50, 60, 70 years, that's something to mark your life by.
It goes very quickly. Very quickly. What's been the best part? All of it.
It's hard to believe, especially the last 30 years just went so fast.
Well, it feels like any other day. It's wonderful. Thank you.
According to the diocese, the jubilarians have served a combined 2,115 years as religious. A Catholic laywoman is on the path to sainthood after living a holy life of service. At the Vatican, Pope Francis urged the crowd in St. Peter's Square to salute her. Sean Richardson reports.
Regina Celi letare, alleluia.
After reciting the Regina Celi, the Pope asked for a round of applause for Guadalupe Ortiz de Landazuri, who had been beatified in Madrid the day before. Pope Francis briefly explained the message of this woman, the first layperson of Opus Dei to be declared blessed.
Che ha servito con gioia i fratelli, coniugando insegnamento e annuncio del Vangelo. La sua testimonianza è un esempio per le donne cristiane impegnate nel sociale e nella ricerca scientifica.
Cardinal Angelo Becciu celebrated the beatification ceremony on behalf of the Pope.
La nueva beata nos comunica a nosotros, los cristianos de hoy, que es posible armonizar la oración y la acción, la contemplación y el trabajo, según un estilo de vida que nos lleva a fiarnos de Dios y a sentirnos expresión de su voluntad, la cual hay que vivir en todo momento.
This ceremony was attended by the Cardinal of Madrid, Carlos Osoro, the President of Spain's Episcopal Conference, Cardinal Ricardo Blasquez, and the Prelate of Opus Dei, Fernando Ocariz. Guadalupe Ortiz was one of the very first women in Opus Dei. She was enthusiastic about St. Josemaria's suggestion not to limit her relationship with God solely to prayer in a chapel. This is because he advocated work and rest as good opportunities to help people and encounter God. Guadalupe studied chemistry and worked in Spain, Mexico, and Italy. She was a cheerful and committed woman who always knew how to make herself available to those who needed her. Sean Richardson, Currents News.
The president of South Sudan says he was shocked and shaken when the Holy Father made an unforeseen gesture of peace at a Vatican summit. You'll remember this. Pope Francis hosted two warring leaders from the North African country, current President Salva Kiir and former Vice President Riek Machar, at the Vatican in April. As a gesture of humility, the pontiff kissed their feet. Now President Kiir is saying he trembled at what the Pope did, calling it a wonderful blessing for peace. Pope Francis is telling journalists that their profession has a great responsibility, which is to serve the truth. Meeting with the Foreign Press Association at the Vatican on Saturday, Francis said they have an indispensable role in society and the great responsibility to use words, images, and social media with care. He also reminded the 400 people in the audience that humility should be the cornerstone of their activities. We want to alert you to something special coming up on Currents News. Letters Between Friends is the story of two different faiths intertwined and forever connected by a shared history of traditions and common values. Bronx native Michael Barbaro and Bishop DiMarzio are the letter writers and the friends.
He's one of the persons I would say is a friend, a pen pal.
He's not just the bishop, of course, but I consider him as a good friend.
Letters Between Friends is a heartwarming story that will be on Currents News tomorrow. And still to come on this edition of Currents News, the historic Eiffel Tower went on lockdown today, and the video explaining why has gone viral on social media. Plus another graduation story. This student is doing 2 at a time. And the tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all of the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Your picture may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. We'll be right back. The iconic Eiffel Tower in Paris was evacuated and shut down today after a man started scaling it. The structure was closed as firefighters made contact with the climber and tried to get him down. It's not yet clear how the trespasser got past security. The Eiffel Tower will remain closed until tomorrow morning. More now on graduation season and one Kansas teen who is attending 2 within the same month. Braxton Moore Al is getting his high school diploma and a degree at Harvard. He started taking online classes at the university when he was 11 because he was bored. Braxton spoke about what he hopes his next move will be after the Harvard ceremony at the end of May.
I'm seeking to go to law school. I don't know where yet, but we'll figure that out hopefully at the end of the month.
Braxton is the first student to pursue a 4-year high school diploma and a Harvard degree at the same time. And it's the graduation story many are still talking about today. The billionaire who's paying off the student debt of the Morehouse College class of 2019. Elijah Dermis is one of the students.
So after I heard the news, of course, in shock, sitting still like, wait, this is a joke. I think he's lying. Got down, I said, okay, God, thank you. And literally shed a tear, but a tear of joy. And I stood up and I said, you know what, that's it.
Billionaire Robert Smith is footing the bill, making the announcement during his commencement speech. The college is still calculating the total cost of all these loans, but it's estimated to be tens of millions of dollars. That is Currents News. I'm Michelle Powers. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.